Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. I don't know what pains me more, the failure as a husband or the failure as a father. I'm not sure if I'm falling into a depression or if I'm just overwhelmed by anger. It's all so confusing. I've spent my life trying to improve my family's life, only to realize in the end that I'm just an ATM. The truth that money and material things don't solve everything comes too late. I have been best friends with Lucas Thompson since we were little kids, and our friendship has been going on since elementary school. After vocational school, we started a welding company together. The company has grown much faster than we could have imagined, so technically it's a business we own together. A few years later, we both married our high school sweethearts. Life was simply perfect for the first 15 years. The company is thriving, Lucas and I are both earning a substantial income, and the company already has over 30 full-time employees. Lucas and his wife Emma have 3 sons, while my wife Olivia and I have twins, a boy and a girl. We all stayed in nice villa areas and enjoyed good food, pleasant vacations, and limousines. Lucas and I are very focused on business development and always put the business first. We learned early on that keeping our customers happy is more important than keeping our employees happy. A third of our talented staff are ex-convicts who we have recruited directly from prison vocational schools. In 8 years, only 2 ex-convicts have had problems, and the other ex-convicts quickly resolve the trouble. They are all doing well and won't let a few black sheep ruin their lives. We support several community programs and even sponsor a softball team. However, my family life took an unexpected turn. Somehow, my wife Olivia became active in various progressivist social activities. I don't really like it, but since she lets me do my own thing, I let her do what she wants. Politics has never been a part of our family, but all of a sudden we started talking about current events and political issues. I try very hard to avoid this type of discussion, but it is futile. The more I distanced myself from her or ignored her, the more obsessive she became. It's as confusing as watching CNN and Fox News at the same time. I started trying to avoid her, but it wasn't easy. As my relationship with my wife grew more distant, so did my relationship with my children. Over the years, I have tried to get my son William involved in various activities. I don't care if it's sports, hiking, or fishing, but he just wants to play video games. All efforts were rebuffed, and eventually Olivia told me to leave him alone and to mind my own business. William gives me a sarcastic smile whenever she says that. My daughter Sophie is a carbon copy of her mother. She used to be Daddy's little angel, but now she barely recognizes me as her father. I lost count of how many ear piercings she had on her. She enjoys accompanying her mother to political rallies and social events, but won't even go for ice cream or pizza with her father. I also gave up trying to make a connection with her. Things got worse when I refused to donate company money for one of their initiatives. Olivia didn't talk to me for a whole week. It's hard to imagine how things could get worse, but life is always full of surprises. The company Christmas party is coming up, and Lucas and I insisted that Olivia and Emma take charge of organizing it. Emma was happy to help, but she had to drag a reluctant Olivia to assist. Over the past few months, Olivia has been going out more and more often, and she's been going on overnight trips to various progressivist events. I don't know if those were protest rallies or seminars, but it doesn't seem to matter anymore. Emma did a wonderful job for the Christmas party. Although she tries to share the credit with Olivia, Lucas and I know it by heart. We serve beer and wine, but no spirits. All the employees showed up for it, and I think the year-end bonus may have played a role. Olivia and the kids were there, of course, but they didn't seem to be enjoying the party atmosphere as much as everyone else. It was supposed to be a cozy family gathering, but there was an indescribable sense of detachment in the air. Little did I know then that this quiet night of partying would become one of the most important turning points in my life. Fate was about to show me that sometimes the greatest betrayals often come from those closest to me. It was at the Christmas party that Lucas came up to me looking grave. "John, I need to talk to you." He pulled me aside as unobtrusively as possible. "What's wrong?" I tried to respond in a relaxed tone. "David Martinez wants to talk to you, but he's a little worried." "What do you mean?" "He didn't want to spoil the party or upset you, but he felt there was something you had to know. David is one of our ex-con employees and has been with the company for 6 years, and none of us wanted to lose such a great employee." "Well, let him come over." "That won't be a problem, will it?" Lucas smiled slightly uneasily. David and his wife Sarah both looked nervous, and I put on a smile and tried to get them to relax. Lucas had the good sense to leave. "Mr. Terrell, we don't want any trouble, but when my wife saw your wife today, she felt compelled to tell you something. I tried to talk her out of it, but she insisted." I looked to his wife and nodded my head to indicate that she could continue. Sarah looked at David and nudged him with her elbow, signaling him to speak. Sarah works at the Hampton Inn, cleaning the 5th floor, and has done so for 2 years. David paused. "Your wife and a Mr. Franklin have been using room 511 for the past year, staying for 2 to 3 hours once or twice a week and always in the same room." I was momentarily speechless, a million questions flooding my mind, but I knew this was neither the time nor the proper forum for questions. Sarah looked relieved, but David was obviously worried about how I would react. I just took his hand in both of mine, looked him in the eye and said, "Thank you." I smiled at Sarah and gestured for them to get back to the party. As I was getting ready to leave, I passed Lucas and whispered, "Give David a raise next month." Michael Franklin is the head of the city's parking department. I didn't know much about him, except that he'd been in public office for almost 20 years and dreamed of running for mayor someday. His wife, Isabella Franklin, is the owner of the largest real estate company in the county, a very attractive woman who likes to advertise on city buses. That night, Olivia was mad at me for leaving the party early and the kids were upset. I just smiled and kept reading my book. Even after 70 years, Mickey Spillane's novels are still a joy to read. On Monday morning, I leisurely waited for Isabella Franklin to arrive at Franklin Realty. The secretary had hot coffee ready and I had brought the book The Big Kill. She walked in around 10 and stopped to survey me for a moment. "I knew you'd come sooner or later, Mr. Terrell. It took you longer than I expected." I followed her into the office with my coffee. "I guess when you own your own company, you do get to organize your time." "John, can I call you John?" I nodded in agreement. "John, I don't want to repeat all this drama. I just want to know what you're going to do. I have a lot of questions, and I don't want you to screw things up." This was totally unexpected. I thought I was going to reveal a shocking truth, but apparently I was wrong. "Ms. Franklin, it looks like I'm really behind on this. I didn't know anything about this until recently, and I have absolutely no idea what to do next and no one to talk to about it. Honestly, I thought you were as in the dark as I was, John. I've known about this for over 6 months. I probably should have contacted you sooner, but I've got a lot on my plate, and I don't want you to screw everything up by acting impulsively. Just call me Isabella, by the way." "What do you mean by screwed up?" "Oh, like getting into a big fight with Michael in public, or exposing them in some embarrassing way. It's hard to predict how you grown men will react when it comes to things like that. I've never felt very macho. Anyway, what's your plan? What can I help you with?" I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. A plan is taking shape in my mind. I think we need more time. Over the next 2 weeks, Isabella Franklin and I became very good friends. Over the past few months, Isabella has methodically set up a trap. The IRS has taken a keen interest in her husband's taxes, and Isabella has long kept her personal and business taxes completely separate from his. State prosecutors are investigating how he diverted state funds meant for road construction and transportation to other unspecified projects. The city is also investigating his use of city funds to pay motel and restaurant bills. What's even more interesting is that she managed to get all these investigations going at the same time. While these efforts did not directly help my situation, her proposed plan to sell the real estate company gave me some inspiration. I could probably do something similar. My biggest problem is my family. I have long since lost intimacy with my wife and children. I didn't really want to leave the company, but it was necessary. And Isabella, she has a solution for me. A perfect plan for revenge is brewing, and this is just the beginning. About a month later, I announced that we were moving into a new house. Olivia's ears immediately perked up, but the kids just let out disgruntled groans. They love their current house. Sophie looked enthused when I mentioned the pool. William came on board when I mentioned the 3-car garage. The viewing went surprisingly well. The new house is twice the size of the current one and more than twice the price. Every child has their own bathroom. Olivia finally smiled with satisfaction when I told her she could buy all the new furniture she wanted. She especially loved the professional-grade kitchen. Finally, I told them everyone would have new cars. For the first time in years, I was back to being a perfect father and husband in their eyes. Isabella found this new house for me in just 2 days and had all the paperwork ready. When I told Olivia that it was Franklin Real Estate that was in charge of the deal, she frowned slightly, but quickly accepted it. Isabella has found a cash buyer for our old house. It was a playful scene watching my wife and my wife's lover's wife sitting at the same table signing papers. There were no false pleasantries, and we got straight to the paperwork. The first pile to be signed is the paperwork for the sale of the old house. Olivia and I signed all the documents as instructed by Isabella and then notarized them. We received $450,000 from the sale of our house, and the funds were transferred directly into an electronic account. Olivia was in a good mood and didn't pay much attention to the details, just signed mechanically. Next up is the paperwork for the new house. Olivia laughed when Isabella mentioned the $900,000 price tag. When I mentioned that I was going to register the new house in her name for tax reasons, she laughed again and thought it was a brilliant idea. However, she failed to note that it was not a purchase contract, but a purchase option agreement. If she had read the fine print carefully, she would have realized that the option period was 120 days. If the actual purchase is not completed within the allotted time, the price rises to $1 million and the $40,000 option fee is forfeited. I don't want to lose money, but it's worth it in the long run. After all the documents were signed and notarized, Isabella handed over the keys with sincere congratulations. I almost laughed out loud. On the way home, Olivia didn't think I'd actually register the house in her name. She also didn't expect to receive a $10,000 gift card to an upscale furniture store. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. The next day was car selection day. William unsurprisingly chose a Mustang. Sophie surprisingly picked a mint green Kia. Olivia instead opted for a white Lexus. I explained to the kids the importance of building a credit history, and they all seemed to understand, which allowed to get the cars registered in their names and fully financed. What they didn't realize is that someone has to pay those car payments. I did the same thing with Olivia's new Lexus. I purchased 90 days of insurance for each new vehicle. Total expenses for all 3 cars were less than $600, most of which was spent on license plates and title transfers. That's another good investment. A week later, we all moved into our new home. Isabella and I are working more and more closely together, and we see each other every day. Sometimes I help her with projects, sometimes she helps me refine my plans. There seemed to be some kind of understanding between us. Lucas is managing the welding company, and Isabella's real estate company has enough employees to keep it running. All of our energies were focused on ending our respective marriages. Isabella intends to wait until one of the agencies investigating her husband files charges against him. She didn't think it mattered which organization made the first move. And my situation was different. I decided not to get a divorce. I had lost enough, but I knew I had to take action. I just wanted all to be over as soon as possible. That's when Isabella offered her assistance again. John, have you ever been to Aruba? Just been there when we docked on a cruise ship, but never stayed there. Do you like it there? Haven't stayed long enough to say whether I like it or not. Why are you asking this all of a sudden? I have an opportunity to purchase a condo out west for $1 million. Would you be interested in a joint venture? It might be a little complicated for me. I don't think I need such a complicated arrangement. We can split it in half. I'm sure you can afford it. Sure I can. But you're perfectly capable of handling this on your own. Why are you considering involving me? Think of it as a partnership, an investment. I consider myself a shrewd businessman. I enjoy utilizing other people's money, and, she paused, I enjoy my time with you. That piqued my interest. $500,000 for an equity stake? I'll have the papers ready. You realize there will be a lot of papers to sign, right? Sure. To my surprise, I actually agreed to live with a woman I hadn't yet had an intimate relationship with. Now I'm even more excited about the whole program. My plan for revenge is unfolding perfectly, and this is just the beginning. Soon, all those who betrayed me will pay for what they did. Lucas and Emma are fully aware of my issues with Olivia and the kids. They are always ready to help without being overly intrusive. Lucas, I've decided to sell you and Emma my shares in the company. It's a great offer, John, but you know we simply can't afford your shares. I'd love to buy it, but it's not going to happen. How about $1,000? What does that mean? Lucas, you don't need me to help you run the company. We both know the company can run on its own now. I will be leaving soon and everything will fall on your shoulders. You will be the sole owner and can make decisions with complete autonomy. All you need to do is call me occasionally for advice. Ah, I see. Lucas chuckled. I guess there's a fee for these phone consultations? Think of it as a kind of lifetime annuity. Don't think about it too much and keep it all simple. The company's attorney prepares all the necessary documents. Lucas and Emma were a little worried that I might be overreacting, but I assured them that I was in complete control of the situation. It's nice to have a trusted friend. Interestingly, I never bothered to confirm Olivia's affair with Michael Franklin. I don't need any compromising photos, emails, or phone records. I won't be using these because I don't plan on getting divorced at all. I'm going to do what 21% of missing fathers do, just disappear. 2 weeks later, Michael Franklin was arrested. I don't even know which department made the first move. He's not a big embezzler, just a petty bureaucrat who always likes to reach into other people's pockets and happens to be having an affair with my wife. Isabella and I parted ways long before all the scandals came to light. She sold the real estate company, along with 32 rental properties and 3 apartment buildings. She was ready to start a new life. I became what she called a playmate, a term that didn't offend me. The relationship really solidified once we arrived in Aruba, but we never went through the traditional courting phase. Everything seemed like it was meant to be. Does it make me a bad father that I don't miss my kids? All things considered, I don't think so. I don't miss my wife either. Does that make me a bad husband? Again, I don't think so. Isabella became an enthusiastic golfer. She tried to get me interested in golf too, but I wasn't feeling it. She plays 3 days a week with a regular group of female friends. We often socialize and gather with them and a dozen other retired golfers. I quickly adapted to this life. It's a new, carefree way of life that is truly delightful. I decided to start learning to paint to pass the time. It's something I've always wanted to do. Every morning I would go down to the dock and set up my easel. I'm not a very good painter, and the first thing I do when I get back to my apartment every day is scrape the paint off the canvas and start over for the next day. 3 months have passed, and I still have nothing. Isabella thought it was funny. As much as I try to avoid contacting anyone, I think I should give Lucas a call. John, it's nice to finally hear from you. I was beginning to wonder if you remembered us. Have you settled in over there yet? Not only have I settled in, but I feel better than ever. It's the smartest decision I've ever made. For the next 10 minutes, Lucas and I talked about my new life in Aruba. I had no trouble convincing Lucas to bring Emma for a week or two's vacation. Everything is going well. Lucas apologized for not sending a check for the consulting fee, but I forgot to give him my address and bank account number. But I don't need that money. Lucas, I'm sorry to ask this, but what can you tell me about my wife and family? I don't know everything, but I'll tell you what I do know. Things don't seem to be going well without you. Go on. First of all, William was detained for driving without a license. His car was confiscated, of course. He was locked up because he was over 18. Olivia couldn't get bail at all. That's all I know. It sounds bad, but honestly, even though I'm his father, I really don't care what happens to him. I tried and I failed. Sophie's situation is no better. Shortly after moving into her new house, her activity on the site doubled. She supposedly gained a lot of followers, and then one day she told her mother she was going to California to meet a producer. 2 weeks later, they found her abandoned Kia in Memphis. Olivia hasn't been heard from since. I'm guessing you got most of your information from Olivia? Yes, she came to the office often, hoping to run into you. She obviously didn't believe me when I said you had left. She had a complete meltdown last week when she received the notice that she had to close the home option deal or move out by the end of the month. Very clever arrangement, John. She's completely overwhelmed right now. I don't know what she's going to do, and I've heard that some of the utilities have been cut off and she can't even afford to pay her electric bill. I laughed softly. Okay, Lucas, I understand. How much did you give her? Don't be mad, John, that I gave her $1,000 and told her to use it as an apartment deposit. But I'm sure she'll spend it on something else. Emma feels sorry for her. Take it out of my next counseling fee. By the way, can her lover help her now? Lucas laughed out loud. He's in a worse position than she is. We only know what's being reported on TV. It's still up in the air about him, but from time to time, some strong details come out. I think he's going to jail for a while. By the way, I almost forgot to tell you that Olivia's car was repossessed, too. She can't even get a cab because all her credit cards have been voided. I don't know how she gets around. We chatted a bit more about the company and made preliminary plans for an Aruba vacation. It was a pleasant conversation. I signed up for an online painting course with a British teacher. 2 months later, a guy at the marina asked me to paint his sailboat. Isabella joked about worrying that I would cut off my ears like Van Gogh. Life goes on, just in a completely different direction. All of this is a consequence of their own choices. As for me, I've finally found true peace. The sun is always so generous in Aruba. Every morning, as I stand on my balcony looking out over the turquoise blue Caribbean Sea, I feel a sense of calm that I have never felt before. This peace comes not from forgiveness, but from letting go. Isabella made many friends at the golf club. She lived a full and happy life while I immersed myself in my paintings. A marvelous balance has developed between us, both intimate and maintaining a modicum of independence. This relationship is completely different from my previous marriages. There are no false promises, no moral shackles, just genuine companionship between two adults. I was mixing colors for a seascape painting when I got Lucas' email. He said Emma would love to come and see our new life, so we agreed to meet the following month. It reminded me of the last time I spoke to him, the bits of information about my past life still haunting me. William's detention does not seem surprising. He grew up with a lack of responsibility, exacerbated by Olivia's coddling. And Sophie's disappearance was somehow a foregone conclusion. She's been chasing some kind of illusory dream, just like her mother. That mansion should have changed hands by now. The 120-day option period had long since passed, and Olivia was apparently unable to pay for the purchase. Her credit cards are all voided, her limousine has been repossessed, and she is struggling to maintain even the most basic living expenses. It was an elaborate trap, and she stepped right into it. The case of Michael Franklin is still pending. Various pieces of evidence fell one after another like dominoes, and his political career was completely over. Isabella occasionally sees stories in the news, but she no longer cares. We have all left the past far behind. Sometimes, when I'm painting on the pier, I see tourists from all over the world. Their faces were beaming with the joy of vacation and curiosity about everything here. I've often wondered how Olivia would feel if she knew what my life was like now. The husband she once used only as an ATM was now living a life she could never have imagined. My painting skills have improved significantly over the past few months. The longshoreman who asked me to paint sailboats has now become a regular customer, and he will introduce me to tourists who want to paint their boats. I don't care about the income, but it does feel good to be appreciated in this way. Isabella often jokes that I'm painting more and more like Van Gogh, but don't emulate his life. We've had enough drama, she would say. Now let's enjoy the peace and quiet. Last week, I received a detailed email from Lucas. He said the company was running well and that the ex-con employees were doing well. David Martinez has risen to the position of shop floor supervisor, and his story is often used to inspire new employees. Yes, the David who changed my fate at the Christmas party. The email also mentions that Olivia moved into a small apartment and appears to have gotten a job at a supermarket chain. The news didn't send any ripples through my mind. The woman who was once glamorous and busy attending all kinds of social events now has to struggle with the basics. That's what she chose to do. Sophie is still missing, but someone said they saw her at a cafe in Los Angeles. William seems to have learned some lessons in the detention center, and upon his release gets a job at his uncle's garage. This information is like reading a stranger's story to me. Sometimes Isabella asks me if I regret making this choice, and my answer is always no. The thrill of revenge may be fleeting, but the relief that comes from getting out of a false relationship is eternal. We all paid the price, but at least I got a new lease on life. Now, my studio is filled with a wide variety of work. There are calm seascapes, choppy storms, and shapeless sailboats. Isabella says these paintings hold my story, and maybe she's right. Each painting is a projection of my inner world, a record of my journey from despair to rebirth. Most mornings I arrive at the dock at sunrise. I love watching the sun slowly rise over sea level, bringing hope for a new day. Life has taught me the most important lesson of all. The hurt of betrayal will eventually pass, and true happiness often comes after an unexpected turn of events. Isabella was recently planning a golf charity tournament, and I promised to paint a customized portrait of the winner's boat. We live full and happy lives without false masks or deliberate performances. Every sunrise and sunset here is a farewell to the past and a promise for the future. When Lucas and Emma finally visit, they will see a completely different me. No longer the husband tormented by betrayal, no longer the helpless father, but a man who has found the true meaning of life. That's my story. It begins with betrayal, but ends with redemption. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not destroying the other person's life, but living a better life. Under this blue sea and blue sky, I finally realized this. The new paintings on the easel are gradually taking shape, and like my new life, the possibilities are endless. As for the past, let it flow forever away with the tides of the Caribbean. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.